Hi, welcome back and thank you for joining me. So today, a bit of an exciting one, an exciting one from where I'm sitting, sitting, is I'm going to talk about the Hemiolia Records 15 IPS 2-track Miles Davis Kinda Blue tape that is just, it's just gone on sale this year. It was actually, you see here, remastered Hemiolia's stereo edition by Pietro Bernini 2022. So it was remastered last year, but it just went on sale this year, earlier in January. And you can see it comes in a beautiful box. It's recorded on Recording the Masters SM900 tape, which is their top of the range mastering tape. It's serial numbered and all very, very beautiful indeed. This is actually a very nice box for a tape. There's 2 reels in here and it's not overly sized. It's smaller than Tape Project, smaller than Analogue Productions. Double reel boxes, smaller than the Horch House boxes. All in all, I really like the box. And more on that. Let's open it up and show you what you get inside. So I'll take the lid off. There. So first thing inside is the paperwork. And we have 2 card sheets, one for each reel. See from the front they're pretty much the same, although reel 1, reel 2 down in the corner. It's actually a really nice matte finish, very heavyweight card, very, very nice artboard. So that kind of rubberized matte finish you get. Anyway, here we go. Reel 1 lists the players: Miles Davis trumpet, Julian Cannonball Adderley alto sax, John Coltrane tenor sax, Bill Evans piano, Wynton Kelly piano on track 2, Freddie Freeloader, Paul Chambers on bass and Jimmy Cobb on drums. And then in the track list we've got So What, Freddie Freeloader and Blue in Green, with the timings. Recorded 2nd of March 1959 at Columbia 30th Street Studios, New York City, by Frederick Plout, or recording engineers Frederick Plout. All compositions written by Miles Davis. Original album produced by Irving Townsend. Originally released on Columbia Records in 1959. Remastered, and I'll get into that in a bit, Hemiolia stereo edition by Pietro Bernini, September 2022. So, reel 2, thing of note here, obviously no Wynton Kelly, he's only on the other side. All blues followed by flamenco sketches. Now this is one that actually, for quite a few years, some time ago, when I first got into this album, confused the heck out of me. Because if I just go to one of the originals, and I've got 3 originals here, but let's have a look what we got. So we've got a deep groove 6i mono, side 2. If we go on the cover, flamenco sketches and all blues. The label does have the correct track order, incidentally. The original 6i stereo, again the label is correct, but the album flamenco sketches all blues. And then, just in case anyone thought this was rectified soon, this is a 1965 issue on the 360 sound stereo 2i label. Flamenco sketches all blues. So basically they didn't reprint the cover for, I don't know, but that's at least 6 years later. So that error on the track listing was allowed to last for quite some time. Not as long as the error on side 1's speed, which again I will get back to. But okay, side 2 was recorded on the 22nd of April. Same studio, same engineers. Now the only difference is the speed, which I'll get back to, and that John Coltrane and Cannonball Adderley swapped sides. And again, I'll, in terms of where they're standing in the stereo soundstage, so I'll get onto that too. What else do we get? A technical sheet lists the catalogue number, the serial number, handwritten here, signed, quality checked by Pietro. the actual labels that the tape, the stock tape, the blank tape come with, original release dates, original, all the original information, and then the information about this particular copy. CCIR, you can order this in NAB, 320 nanowebers a meter, which to my mind is probably the most sensible tape recording level, well within the saturation level of this particular tape. Yet it's high enough to sort of minimize, if not eliminate, any tape noise. And then lastly, a original analog certification, hand numbered with a serial number, signed by Claudio Valieri of Hemiolia and dated 2nd of January, my one was. Okay. And then the tapes, absolutely beautifully presented. You can see there's no wasted space around here. A couple of millimeters each side. Beautiful wooden tape locating peg in the middle there. If I take this out, you can see this whole piece comes out. Really nice, thick, double layered artboard. I'd say that's about 3 or 4 mil altogether. And then reel 2 under there, as you can see. So, just pop this back here. And these reels, I mean, they really are very beautiful. Wonderful. I mean, I just really, orange is a particular favourite colour of mine, actually. And I absolutely love the anodization of this. It's the Hemiolia Analogue 4 phases certificated, in fact, written on the back. And this is engraved and then filled in with grey paint. It's really lovely. And even Hemiolia's own branded hold down tape, which is a tiny thing, but it's just nice. So you get the 2 reels, and let me tell you a little bit about the source and effectively what you're buying when you buy one of these. So back in the day, Hermitage, who are an Italian reissue company, were sent a production master, a flat production master, which is important to bear that in mind. And now a flat production master is one that is effectively a one-to-one copy of the original master. And it's intended for sort of kind of unspecified release. If you were ordering a master specifically to press CD or specifically to press vinyl, it may well have some equalization. The bass may be slightly monoed, it may be rolled off, it may be more compressed. All sorts of things that you can do in that mastering to tailor the master for the medium that it was intended to be used for. Whereas a flat master is just the master. That's kind of like the definitive version of the album, if you like. And another thing I want to just get on is the kind of the processes of producing a master and what goes through finishing the creative process of an LP, of an album. Now, obviously you've got the recording that has to take place first, and these days that's typically done multi-track. But in those days, multi-track hadn't really been developed, and the best that you had was 3-track. So it was sort of a left, centre, right was effectively the way the 3 channels were laid out. And then they would be mixed down to 2 channels, to stereo or to mono, basically. Now, in the case of Kind of Blue, I believe that the left track, and we'll talk about the session 1 first of all, so what became side 1. Track 1, if you like, was the piano and the tenor sax. So that's Bill Evans or Wynton Kelly on Freddie Freeloader, and John Coltrane The right channel, or track 3, whatever you want to call it, was used for Cannonball Adderley on alto sax and James Cobb on drums. And the centre channel was Paul Chambers on bass and Miles Davis on trumpet. Now, those three, because these weren't recorded in separate sessions, it was kind of recorded live, if you like, with the whole band playing. So they would be pretty much standing next to each other. They may have some sort of a panel between them just to cut down the bleed from the left channel mic to the centre mic to some degree, but there's still going to be bleed between them. And that's kind of an important thing to bear in mind and remember. And the centre channel, I believe I've picked this up from things I've seen and read. There are plenty of videos and writings on the making of this album. But I believe that the only channel that was fed through a reverb chamber was the centre channel, the one with Miles Davis and Paul Chambers on. But of course, there would be bleed from the piano and the saxes, or the piano and tenor sax on side one, and the alto sax and the drums. Again, that's side one was on the right. There would be bleed from that in the centre channel microphone, and that therefore would be sent up to the reverb chamber coming down. So basically, the centre, the three channels that sort of are kind of the final three channels that will then crucially get mixed down to two channels for stereo are left channel piano and tenor sax, right channel drums and alto sax, centre channel trumpet, bass, plus reverb of the other two channels, just in terms of a bleed. So there is, any reverb on the of the saxophone, for instance, will be what any artificially created added reverb will be what's been added to the center channel to its bleed. And again, that's something I kind of just clock that for now, and we'll get back to it because I just find it very interesting. And then those three channels, they have to be, we don't have 3-channel stereo systems, or we certainly don't these days. And so for the commercial releases, it needed to be mixed down, and how you mix down those three into two will affect the overall makeup and not only the solidity, but the air and the ambience and the position and the space within that soundstage, as well as the actual mix and relative loudness of the various instruments. So it's kind of really crucial. Now, reason I've gone rambling on about all that is because I think it's important to differentiate the difference between mastering and mixing. If we take, let me find a 6i, because that's my favourite one. So if we take this one as my ultimate reference, because certainly until I got the UHQRs, which I will come on to in a moment, this was undoubtedly my reference. It's a deep groove. You can see that means this groove around this part of the label here. Matrix number X, I'll read it the right way up, XSM47326-1AA. And I believe that's about as early as they get. And it sounds fantastic, although it's got a few scratches on it, and it's not the quietest thing in the world, but it sounds absolutely fantastic. Now, what I will now show you, I've previously done 2 videos on the UHQRs, and I've got here, this is the 45 RPM one and the 33 RPM one. Now, I'll link to the 45 RPM one here because it's obviously the more recent, and it is the better sounding, there's no question. But what we've got here, it's not a remaster like this is. it is actually a remix. So this is taking the 3-channel tape. This is taking what is effectively the final session tape, the recording tape, the pre-mixed recording tape. And as I said, you've got those 3 channels with a piano, tenor, bass, trumpet, plus reverb, and alto sax and drums. And how you mix those together will have quite a profound effect on the space and everything else. Now, I am absolutely not knocking this, and I will keep hold of this. There's no question of that, because it is an exceptional piece of recorded music and example of sort of vinyl art form, if you like. It really is exceptional. It's outstanding. But what it's not is it's not kind of the same as the original, because it is a remix. And it sounds far clearer than the original, which you think is a good thing. I mean, and it is a good thing, but don't get me wrong. Let me keep saying that. I'm not knocking this. I'm just trying to point out the differences. But it is exceptional, but it is a remix. And until I heard the tape, any kind of differences from the original that I would have perceived in this, because the qualitative improvements are so great, you kind of put up with the, or you just accept the kind of the creative choices, changes, if you like. But now that I've got this tape, it throws a light on much more on what's going on in this, which is really interesting. And I say it doesn't make me want to knock this at all, but it is interesting. And I think the 2 main areas they differ. Now, first of all, someone who just absolutely crave. Well, first of all, if you haven't got a studio quality reel-to-reel machine, then this is pointless. So forget it. You might want to watch this just out of interest, but you need a studio quality reel-to-reel machine to play these. But what this does is it is as clear. If anything, it's almost clearer. And you've got to bear in mind it's going back to the session tapes, and then Bernie Grundman's mixing it on absolute state-of-the-art modern equipment. And he then cut it for, he didn't cut it for Analogue Productions, he cut it for Classic Records, but he still cut it for full-on audiophile pressing. And as such, it is, it's exceptionally quiet, it's exceptionally open, it really is detailed, it's phenomenal, like a crystal window into the original recording. Whereas this is quite simply the best version. I'll cut to the chase here. It is absolutely the best version of this. Or should I say that's the one? A bit confusing here. It's the best version of this you will have ever heard, by a country mile. And the reason for that is because this is taken from the original master tape. So it's not going as far back in time, in the timeline of the production of the album, if you like, as this is. But this is going back before the creative part of the album's making was finished. So it's kind of it is a remix. It's a remix just like the Pink Floyd Animals recent issue is a remix, or the Giles Martin Revolver is a remix. And both of those sound really impressive, but they don't sound the same as the original, and that's quite a notable point. Okay, so this is a remaster, not a remix, and the master that they used to make this, as I explained earlier on, was a flat production master sent to Hermitage. Flat, so it's not been EQ'd, it's not been compressed. It's just the final finished thing that would have been then sent on to be used for cutting for the vinyl issues, or years and years later for making CDs. Back then it would have been duplicated for making there was a half track 7.5 IPS kind of blue release on Columbia, and also a 4-track 7.5 IPS release on Columbia, I believe. I'm not entirely certain, but I believe they were both 2 and 4 tracks. But that kind of tape would have been used for all these things. Now, one of the interesting things about the original kind of blue release, it wasn't until I believe 1992 that they discovered that one of the 2 tape machines used in the first recording session was actually running marginally. I don't know if it was slow or fast, but it was actually, it wasn't absolutely on the money, speed terms wise. So when they played it back, it was actually, I believe, as a quarter of a semitone, whatever that is in terms of speed percentages, I don't know, but it was a quarter of a semitone fast or high. So the music was very, very, very slightly faster on these records. It is. The music on side A is very, very, very slightly faster. Now, I don't have perfect pitch, so I can't go, oh, that's a quarter of a that's sharp by quarter of a semitone. Or I wouldn't have a clue, frankly. But when you listen to a speed corrected version, it does kind of just sound a little bit lackluster and tardy, so to speak, to my ears, because I'm, I say, not pitch perfect. Now, the interesting thing about this is this just sounds, one of the main things of listening to this versus all the other versions, all of my original vinyls, both of the UHQRs, playing this, it was just like kind of coming home to something you knew, such a relaxing, kind of soul nurturing experience of just like, oh God, that's it, that really is it. And it just sounds right. It doesn't sound as hi-fi as the UHQRs. In a way, it doesn't sound as clear as the UHQRs. And the main difference between, I'd say, this and the UHQRs is it's the sound stage. It's the way things are portrayed. And I think that's basically down to the sort of the mixing, because the most tangible kind of aspects of the differences are, this sounds more like you're sitting in a front row of the studio or an auditorium or jazz club or whatever, if you were listening to them. Whereas the UHQR kind of sounds like you're in a bigger hall and sitting maybe halfway back. So it's quite a different feel to the space and the ambience and reverb and the like. And I mean, there's no question this sounds more like the original vinyl, but better. And I mean way, way better. There are, levels of resolution and detail to equal or challenge the UHQR. The weight of the bass, the pianos, the drums, even the bottom of the body, if you like, of the the resonant kind of the saxophones, and the trumpet. It's got that real weight and body, which typically you only really get on tape, to be honest. It's one of the standout things about tape, and also that pitch stability that I've got a very, very, very good turntable, but again, one of the things that tape just hands down wins on is that pitch stability. The timing is just absolutely on the bum, and so it's that kind of the pacing, the reality, and of course side one. So I'm listening to it, and it just sounds unbelievably natural, not hi-fi, unbelievably natural, and unbelievably right. And I did contact Hemiolia and ask them specifically, and yeah, the master that they were sent, it was obviously post 1992, was of the speed correct side one. And back in the day when they were recording, they had 2 recording machines set up side by side. They made a backup in case there was an error or a mistake. The trouble is it took them from 59 until 92 to discover that mistake, but fortunately they did have a backup master which was at the correct speed, so that's what they've used here. So it's still an original master. It's still recorded at the same moment, It just was the one that didn't have the fault. And funnily enough, they did use the one that had the fault for the vinyl and every release up until at least 1992. So the side one speed issue is sorted out. And I'll just say, just generally, I've explained about how everything's more forward. There's still huge depth, but the front to backness of the depth is increased, whereas everything on the UHQR is kind of quite distant. Like I say, like you're sitting sort of midway back in a medium-sized auditorium, whereas this is more like you're, in the front couple of rows of an intimate jazz club, which to me sounds more like the original. I mean, it just sounds fantastic. Go on to side two. Just as good sounding, absolutely just as good sounding. So we've got all blues followed by flamenco sketches. Flamenco sketches is absolutely, I mean, it's really reminiscent of Sketches of Spain, which was I think was the next album. And so you'd struggle to get those two muddled up, I think, in a way, but it is just a stunning and beautiful thing, and it really does sound, to me, it's the most musically, spiritually satisfying, if you like, nourishing. It just feels and sounds real and right, and that is my general experience with all master copies, whether they're from the absolute original master, whether they're first or second generation copies. Really, to be honest, I don't think that the process of copying a tape, to my ears, introduces nowhere near as much loss as the process of cutting and pressing a vinyl LP. It really is one that just sounds absolutely right, whether you're playing it in the background or whether you're absolutely playing it at realistic volumes. It sounds right. And I have actually written a very, very in-depth review, sort of track by track, moment by moment, forensically, if you like, kind of analysing the sound and telling the full story of the mastering, the mixing, the sourcing, the provenance, the copyright. All these issues are all fully explained. And I'll leave a link down below. That's on my website, therealtorealrambler.com. And I just got to say, well done, Hemiolia. It's absolutely stunning, and it's one of my most precious tapes. It's not cheap, but my God, it's good. And this follows on, obviously, from the John Coltrane Blue Train, which I'll leave a link to here if you want to have a look at that one. And just a final mention, this isn't going to be my next review, but it's the next one from Hemiolia. I haven't opened it yet, as you see, Mingus which will be really, really, really interesting. Cannot wait to play that. So, on that note, I'll say thank you very, very, very much for watching. Do check out my review on the Real Trail Rambler if you want to read the full story of this in depth. And I will catch you all soon. Thanks a lot. Goodbye. Bye.